Hi, this is David Davis, and I'm honored to be here at Gridstore headquarters with Senior Director of Product Management, Don Chouinard. How you doing, Don?
Hi, David. Great.
Well, thanks for having us here. We've been learning a lot about what you all are doing at Gridstore. You've got some very exciting and innovative storage arrays. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the hardware in particular? What's unique about this? Is this some special hardware that you all have engineered that's completely different than anything else, or are you honing in on the advantages of commoditization?
Yes, a storage company, you're thinking we're going to get a card cage, put some drives in there, start dealing with the firmware issues between the drives and the BIOS and the RAID controllers and so forth. No, we skipped all of that. We use a standard server that is made 100,000 at a time. It's the most popular server out there. It's extremely proven. There are millions of them out there. It's just a 1U server. And what we do is we team these industry standard servers together to create a very powerful storage system. So we want to spend our time innovating in the software area and not debugging hardware issues. So our customers never have hardware issues because they're using such proven hardware as the base. And it's also very, very cost effective to do it that way. Once you get into these exotic storage systems that have, the dual controllers in the back and the 12 drives across the front, everything's custom in there and you're paying way too much money for it. You can get a quad-core 1U server for really an excellent price, and that is the metric upon which we're building.
That's great. I mean, that's a smart move for you all, and that's a smart move for your customers as well, because it makes the product so much more affordable. So, tell us a little bit about the different models that are available.
Every model has a quad-core Xeon processor in it, 32 gig of DRAM. There are 4 NLSAS 7200 RPM enterprise class drives across the front. They are hot swappable. And then in the back, there's dual hot swap power. Okay. So there's plenty of iron in there. Now, when you get to the point where you've got like 10 storage nodes because you need 120 terabytes of raw capacity, which is really the sweet spot for mid-America, 10 storage nodes with a quad-core Xeon in each one. That's 40 Xeon cores that are working for you, right? When you look at competitors, mid-market machines, there's not 40 cores in there. There's 12, maybe 24 cores in a mid-market machine. So the hardware keeps adding up. The other thing is that the I/O keeps adding up. On the back of every storage node is either dual 1 gig or quad 1 gig Ethernet for those that want to stay with a 1 gigabit infrastructure. And then we also offer dual 10 gigabit for the ultimate in performance. And some people go with that, especially with our hybrid storage nodes. If they're really going to hit them hard, they want to go with the 10 gigabit for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So does it use spinning disk, or is there flash involved?
Yeah, well, we have 2 types of storage nodes. The capacity storage nodes just have the 4 spinning drives in every 1U that you add. With, as you mentioned, it's pay-as-you-go economics. You just keep popping these things in. We scale like nothing else the world has ever seen because we avoid cluster chatter. So we can actually scale out to 250 such storage nodes in one pool. And as you're doing that, as you're adding more storage nodes to the pool, in come not only more capacity, but more CPU and more I/O. In a situation where I have just dual 1 gig coming off the back of the storage nodes, but I have 10 storage nodes, that's 20 gigabits of bandwidth going into the storage system, right? And all the I/Os spread out across that. So one of the cool things about the grid is you can actually avoid buying a 10 gig switch longer with the grid because the I/Os are spreading out across these nodes.
Very nice, very nice. So who do you see using these, and what are the common use cases? Who's excited about these?
Hyper-V customers are excited about these because more of your environment's becoming virtualized. This starts to stress your storage system because the I/Os coming off the hypervisors are 8K reads and writes. Storage systems want to see large sequential accesses because they have rotating drives in them. And so people get to a crossroads where they say, okay, I've got to do something about my storage system. What are you going to do? You're going to go to hybrids. What you're going to do? You got to get some flash in here.
Right.
Flash is the single thing that is going to determine the winners and losers in the storage industry over the next 5 to 10 years. It's a complete game changer. So what we do in our hybrid storage node is we introduce a flash card in front of the rotating media and just watch those IOPS go up. 8K random reads are 38,000 IOPS, which is pretty impressive for 3 storage nodes. But what's even more impressive, when you go to 6 storage nodes and 9 storage nodes, we scale linearly.
Very nice.
So
Very
at 9
nice.
storage nodes, we're over 120 8K random reads.
Wow, it's a lot of performance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, from the Hyper-V administrator's perspective, how would they administer the storage?
It's a piece of cake. So we have an MMC snap-in, which is the normal way that Windows administrators would, go about their work.
Yeah.
So we sit with all the rest of their snap-ins, and they just invoke grid control. Grid control allows you to take a number of storage nodes and put them into a pool. And once you've done that, you can carve LUNs out of that pool, and you can determine the protection level per LUN. So, in other storage systems, it's like, well, it's a RAID 5 pool, and every LUN you carve out is RAID 5. Not so with us. You put a bunch of storage nodes into a pool, so let's say it's 10 of them. You have 120 terabytes raw sitting in there. You can carve out a LUN, say that's a RAID 5 LUN, carve out some RAID 6 LUNs, carve out some LUNs that can take 4 complete faults and still keep running. So once you've carved the LUN out of the pool and presented it to the Windows server, you're back to standard Windows tools. You're into, Server Manager, Disk Manager, Format, Disk Part, all the things that administrators know and love. Our manual is only 80 pages long. So getting these lugged and tugged and plugged and racked and stacked is the work. Once you bring the grid control up, all the storage nodes check in with grid control. Next thing, you've got your LUNs assigned to servers, and now you're just doing regular Windows administration. We appear as a local SAS hard drive to the Windows server. Couldn't be easier, couldn't be more compatible. Compatible with clusters, Hyper-V clusters and scale-out file server clusters, and compatible with storage spaces, all things Microsoft.
Very nice, very nice. So, if there's one thing that you want, Windows admins out there to know about Gridstore, what is it?
Well, I think a big question that comes up a lot is they hear about our hybrid storage, they hear those performance numbers, at the price that we're offering it, and they're like, hey, this looks good. Why wouldn't I buy a competitor's iSCSI target or fiber channel disk array? And the answer to that is somewhat informative to people. The iSCSI protocol is inadequate for the challenges that are being faced today. It's give a block, get a block, and that's too low level of a conversation. We have a virtual controller which we install onto the Windows host, and that allows us to know exactly which virtual machine each of the IOs has come from. And once you isolate, you can optimize. So we reorder IOs, we deliver end-to-end quality of service on a per Hyper-V VM basis, and we scale like nothing the world has ever seen. And this is because we can avoid cluster chatter. And all 3 of these attributes you can't do if it's an iSCSI target. The protocol's inadequate. So you have to have a piece of software living up on the host in order to get to this higher level of performance. Yeah, hybrid gets you a long way, but these software aspects are not to be overlooked because not all Hyper-V VMs are of the same importance. And to give the administrator control over these VMs are going to run on the high priority queues and these are going to run on the medium and these are going to run on the low priority queues, that's a wonderful thing to help them get the most out of their storage system and adjust things, as things are going in the course of their days and weeks and months of running these large Hyper-V environments.
Really impressive. This is the most high performance, easy to use, and I guess ideal solution really for Windows Server admins and Hyper-V server admins that I've seen. I appreciate your time today, Don. Thanks so much.
Thank you, David.